contributor, and Rich Staropoli, former Secret Service agent. Rich, can I start with you? How serious do you take this? Certainly. I take it very seriously, but I think the big question is, how seriously is the FBI going to take this? What do you mean? Well, when you think about it, look at what the FBI has done and how politically compromised the Bureau has been and has shown themselves to be. The last big thing they did. Show up with multiple SWAT teams at Mar-a-Lago, working for the Biden crime family, right, executing a warrant in an empty house, acting on intelligence that they got from the Secret Service, another politically compromised agency, to do what? To retrieve documents. Which leads me to ask, is the FBI going to investigate this? I don't think the FBI is going to do a damn thing about this. They're perfectly happy, as is the entire Biden crime family and the White House and this administration, to do anything they can do to embarrass President Trump and to influence not just the nominees, but anyone who potentially may become a nominee. So, Bera, when it comes to the families, that's the key. A lot of these politicians, these nominees, have the thick skin because they're used to maybe being yelled at going into a diner or going into their car. But the families must be saying to themselves, what are we getting into? I'm sure they are. The first thing you have to do in a situation like this where we know very little is to know that sometimes the suspects, the answers can be surprising. So we don't know who it is. But, today is November 27th. It was a month ago today that the Trump Madison Square Garden rally happened. And in the days before and after that, we heard an enormous amount of talk about Donald Trump being Hitler, of him being a fascist, an autocrat, and of the being a replay, a reenactment of the 1939 Nazi rally in New York. And then after that, we heard it was a festival of hate against Puerto Ricans and all of this stuff. And this rhetoric does have effects on. And there are lots of unbalanced individuals who hear things like this. Now, Donald Trump has won election, and maybe history is repeating itself and they're going to do something to try to stop this. This rhetoric does have effects. We've already seen 2, at least, assassination attempts on Donald Trump himself. So I wouldn't be surprised if this rhetoric is somehow connected to what we're seeing now. Yeah, we got a felon that was picked up in Arizona with a record, lied about his background, but he definitely made it clear that he wants to assassinate President Trump, and he was first known about this in the summer. So, Rich, you brought up the FBI, and Deputy Director Andy McCabe, a guy that went from defame to a contract at another network, the former FBI high-ranking agent, said this about the myriad of threats. This has become a very, very common aspect of life for really anyone who is in a high-profile or even remotely controversial position. It's been going on for years. So, Rich, your response to him downplaying these threats? It's totally ridiculous. So what are we supposed to do? Just accept the fact public officials can get threatened? Should we just accept the fact that mentally ill people are roaming the New York City subways, throwing people off the platform in front of oncoming trains? That is absolutely ridiculous. What is the FBI thrown in the towel here? They're not going to do anything. That's a terrible statement to be made by a ranking leader, although former senior ranking leader of the FBI. It's horrible. Byron, you know what I am encouraged by? I think both sides since the election have really simmered off a little bit, simmered down a little bit. Seeing Biden and Trump together at the White House helps the country relax. Maybe helps Thanksgiving a little. Do you see people being somewhat aware that their words matter more now than ever? Well, I think what you're saying is true about the general public. Certainly, as far as the resistance is concerned, the most virulently anti-Trump parts of the electorate, we've seen them be somewhat quiet since the election. I don't know if they're trying to come up with a new path of resistance or what. But I think what you're saying is true about the majority of the electorate. On the other hand, these unstable individuals, unbalanced individuals who are hearing this stuff, I think that is a real threat. And it is, Here you've got a group of at least half a dozen cabinet secretary designates, and they're getting threatened here. I think this is really evidence of a higher level of sensitivity in this transition than in previous ones. Yeah, I just thought there's just as not enough Secret Service to go around. I think it's a great idea. 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 Think it's a